Welcome to Honeybee. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit the bell. Real stories of love, lies, and betrayal, where every truth stings. Let's begin. I never thought a simple misunderstanding could make me question my entire relationship. But it all started one Friday evening when my girlfriend, Emma, asked me to apologize to her male best friend, Ryan, for hurting his feelings. At first, I thought she was joking. I mean, what grown man needs an apology from his friend's boyfriend over something so trivial? But she wasn't joking. She was dead serious. And that conversation changed everything between us. It began a few weeks earlier. Emma and I had been dating for almost 2 years. Things were going well. Or at least, I thought they were. We had our little fights, sure. But who doesn't? She was warm, smart, funny, and had a way of making ordinary moments feel special. But there was one thing about her that always made me a little uneasy. Her friendship with Ryan. They had been best friends since college. Emma often told me how Ryan had always been there for her, through breakups, exams, and family issues. At first, I didn't mind. I'm not the jealous type. But the more I got to know Ryan, the more I started noticing things that didn't sit right with me. He was overly familiar with her. Little touches on her shoulder, inside jokes I didn't understand, and late-night calls that always seemed urgent. Whenever I asked her about it, she'd laugh and say, "Come on, he's like a brother to me." But something about the way he looked at her told a different story. One weekend, Emma invited me to a small get-together at Ryan's apartment. I agreed, even though the idea of spending the evening with him made my stomach tighten. Still, I wanted to be supportive. When we arrived, Ryan opened the door with a wide grin, his arm immediately going around Emma's shoulders. "Hey, Em, you look amazing," he said, his eyes scanning her in a way that made me instantly uncomfortable. "Thanks, Ree," she said, smiling back. I stood there, awkwardly holding a bottle of wine, waiting to be acknowledged. Ryan finally turned to me. "Oh, hey, man," he said, in a tone that was friendly enough on the surface, but carried a faint hint of sarcasm underneath. The night dragged on with small talk, laughter, and music. But every time Ryan cracked a joke, Emma's laughter seemed louder, her smile brighter. And I found myself sitting quietly, feeling like an outsider in a story that wasn't mine. Things went south when the topic turned to relationships. Someone joked about how women always end up dating guys who can't handle their male friends. Ryan smirked and said, "Yeah, like some guys just get threatened too easily. They can't deal with a girl having male friends because of their insecurities." He didn't name me, but the implication hung in the air like smoke. I laughed lightly, trying to keep things cool. "I think it depends on boundaries." I said, "Friendship's great, but sometimes people cross lines without realizing it." Ryan raised an eyebrow, his tone sharp now. "You mean like how some guys think a woman's life revolves around them?" That one hit harder than I expected. The room went silent for a second, and I could see Emma shifting uncomfortably. I smiled tightly. "No, I mean respecting each other's comfort zones. You'd understand if you were in a relationship, Ryan." His smirk vanished, and for a moment his eyes darkened. He took a sip of his drink and said, "Well, maybe I just respect people enough not to control them." That was it. I didn't say anything else, but the tension between us was obvious. The night ended awkwardly. On our way home, Emma barely spoke. When I asked her what was wrong, she finally turned to me and said, "You were really rude tonight." I blinked in disbelief. Rude? I was defending myself. He was the one taking shots at me. "He wasn't," she snapped. "You just overreacted. You embarrassed me in front of my friends." That stung. I apologized for making her uncomfortable. But inside, I couldn't shake the feeling that something wasn't right. A few days passed, and things were cold between us. She wasn't texting me as much. When we met, she seemed distant, distracted. Then one evening, she called and said, "Can we talk?" I could tell from her tone that it wasn't going to be pleasant. We met at a coffee shop near her place. She sat across from me, arms crossed, eyes serious. "Ryan's really upset about what happened," she said immediately. "He told me he felt disrespected by how you talked to him." I raised an eyebrow. Disrespected? For what defending myself? She sighed, running a hand through her hair. Look, I know you mean to be rude, but he's my best friend. He's been there for me for years. I can't just ignore his feelings. I stared at her, waiting for the punchline. You're not serious, right? She looked me dead in the eye. I want you to apologize to him. For a moment, I couldn't even speak. The request sounded so absurd that my mind just froze. You want me to apologize to him? For what exactly? For upsetting him, she said softly. It would mean a lot to me. I laughed, but it wasn't out of humor. It was disbelief. Emma, he provoked me. He insulted me in front of everyone. And you want me to say sorry? She frowned. It's not about who's right or wrong. It's about keeping the peace. Ryan is important to me, and if you care about me, you'll make things right. That last line cut deeper than she probably intended. If I care about you, I repeated, my voice low. So my love for you depends on whether I apologize to your best friend? She looked down, avoiding my eyes. I just don't want drama between you two. I wanted to argue more, to tell her how humiliating this felt, but something in her expression, that mix of guilt and stubbornness, made me stop. Fine, I said after a long pause. If that's what you want, I'll do it. She looked up, surprised. You will? I nodded. Yes, for you. Her face softened. She reached across the table and squeezed my hand. Thank you. This means a lot to me. I smiled faintly, but inside, I felt a piece of myself crumble. That night, I lay in bed staring at the ceiling, replaying everything in my mind. I wasn't angry anymore. I was just tired of feeling like I had to prove my worth in my own relationship. I kept asking myself the same question. Why did I have to be the one to bend? Still, the next evening, I texted Ryan. Me? Hey man, can we talk? Ryan, sure. What's up? Me, can we meet? I just want to clear the air. He agreed, and we set up a meeting at a local bar. When I got there, he was already seated, scrolling through his phone, a smug smile playing on his lips. Hey, I said, sitting across from him. He looked up casually. Hey, man. There was no warmth in his voice, just a hint of satisfaction. I took a deep breath. Look, about the other night, I didn't mean for things to get heated. I just felt disrespected, and I might have handled it badly. So, I apologize if I upset you. Ryan leaned back, smirking. Wow, didn't expect that. Yeah, I said quietly. Emma asked me to make peace. He chuckled. Of course she did. She hates conflict. There was something in his tone, a familiarity that rubbed me the wrong way. Well, I hope we can move past it, I said, trying to keep it civil. He nodded, still smirking. Sure, man. No hard feelings. But his eyes said something different. They said I won. Later that night, I told Emma it was done. She smiled, relieved. Thank you, babe. You did the right thing. I wanted to feel good about it, to feel like I'd done something mature and noble. But instead, all I felt was small. Something inside me shifted that day. I realized that love shouldn't make you feel like you're constantly giving up pieces of your self-respect just to keep the peace. I didn't know it then, but that apology, that single moment of surrender, would mark the beginning of the end for us. After that night, I thought things would settle down. I believed that apologizing to Ryan, even though I hated every second of it, would smooth things over and bring some peace back into my relationship with Emma. For a few weeks, it actually seemed to work. Emma was lighter, happier, affectionate again. She started holding my hand like before, sending me random, I miss you texts, even planning little weekend outings. I wanted to believe everything was fine. I wanted to believe my sacrifice meant something. But deep down, something had changed in me and between us. One evening, a few weeks after the apology, Emma invited me to a dinner with some of her friends again, including Ryan. I hesitated. You sure that's a good idea? I asked, forcing a small laugh. She rolled her eyes. Come on, don't start. Everything's fine now. He's cool with you. I nodded, though I didn't feel convinced. Still, I didn't want another argument, so I agreed. When we arrived, the atmosphere was cheerful. Everyone was chatting, laughing, drinking. Ryan greeted Emma with a hug that lasted just a bit too long, and then turned to me with a grin that didn't reach his eyes. "Hey, man," he said, clapping me on the shoulder. "Glad you could make it." "Yeah," I replied flatly. Throughout dinner, I noticed subtle things, the way he teased Emma, the inside jokes, how she'd lightly sweat his arm and giggle. None of it was outright inappropriate, but it was enough to gnaw at me from the inside. When I tried joining on conversation, Ryan interrupted or brushed off my comments like I wasn't even there. A couple of Emma's friends exchanged awkward glances, sensing the tension. At one point, I excused myself to the kitchen to grab more drinks. When I came back, I stopped in my tracks. Ryan was sitting close to Emma, his hand on the back of her chair, leaning in as he whispered something. She laughed softly, brushing her hair behind her ear. That familiar gesture I'd seen 100 times when she was trying to be charming. My chest tightened. I felt like an intruder in my own relationship. When they noticed me, Emma immediately shifted, her smile fading slightly. Ryan leaned back casually, pretending nothing had happened. I didn't say a word the rest of the evening. On the drive home, silence filled the car. Emma tapped her fingers on the steering wheel, glancing at me now and then. "Okay, what's wrong?" she finally asked. I turned to her. "You really want to know?" She sighed. "Yes. I saw the way he was looking at you," I said quietly, "and the way you were looking back." She frowned. "Oh my God, not this again." "I'm not imagining things, Emma. He doesn't treat you like a friend. He acts like a guy who's waiting for a chance." She slammed her hand against the steering wheel. "Why can't you just trust me?" "I do trust you," I said, my voice trembling slightly. "But I don't trust him." She groaned, shaking her head. "You're so paranoid. Ryan has always been there for me. You can't expect me to just push him away because you're insecure." "Insecure," I repeated, anger flaring in my chest. "I apologize to that man, even though I did nothing wrong, for you, and now you're calling me insecure." Her tone softened. "I didn't mean it like that. I wish you could see how important he is to me." "Yeah," I muttered bitterly. "I see that very clearly." Neither of us spoke for the rest of the ride. A few days later, something strange happened. Ryan texted me. "Ryan, hey man, you around?" "Me? Yeah. Why?" "Ryan, can we grab a drink tonight? I want to clear the air." I hesitated, but curiosity got the better of me. Maybe he actually wanted to make peace. Maybe he'd realized how his behavior was coming across. We met at a quiet bar downtown. He seemed unusually cheerful, almost smug. "Thanks for coming," he said. "I figured we should talk, you know? No tension." I nodded cautiously. "Sure." He took a sip of his beer before saying, "I just want you to know, man, I get it. You're trying to be the good boyfriend, and I respect that. But Emma and we've been through a lot. You'll never really understand our bond." Something in his tone made my stomach twist. I forced a smile. "I don't need to understand it. As long as it's just friendship, that's fine." He smirked. "Of course, friendship. But sometimes friendships get complicated." My grip tightened around the glass. "What's that supposed to mean?" He leaned in, lowering his voice. "Let's just say there are things about Emma that you don't know. Things from before you came along." "Like what?" I asked, my voice sharp now. He chuckled. "Relax, man. I'm not saying she cheated or anything. I'm just saying she and I had a connection. A real one. We always will." I stared at him, anger bubbling in my chest. "So, what are you trying to say, Ryan?" He leaned back, grinning. "Just that if you ever screw up, I'll be there for her. Like I always have been." That was it. I stood up abruptly, throwing some cash on the table. "You're unbelievable." He smirked, not even pretending to care. "Hey, don't take it so personally." I walked out without another word. That night, I didn't sleep. My mind was racing, my thoughts a storm. His words echoed over and over. We had a connection. I'll always be there for her. Was he lying just to get under my skin? Or was there some truth to it? The next morning, I went to Emma's apartment, determined to get answers. She opened the door, surprised. "Hey, what's going on?" I walked in, closing the door behind me. "We need to talk." "About what?" "About Ryan." She sighed. "What now?" I took a deep breath. "He told me you two had a connection, that it's always been more than friendship. Is that true?" Her expression shifted. Confusion first, then irritation. "Are you serious right now?" "Just answer me," I said, my voice shaking. She rubbed her temples. "He's just messing with you. You know how Ryan is. He likes getting under people's skin." "That wasn't a joke, Emma. He meant it. I saw it in his eyes." She looked at me for a long moment, then said quietly, "We did date once. Briefly. A long time ago. It didn't work out. We decided to stay friends." It felt like the floor dropped beneath me. "You never told me that." I whispered. "Because it didn't matter," she said quickly. "It was years before I met you." "Didn't matter?" I repeated, my heart pounding. "You've been spending all this time with your ex, letting him talk about me like that, letting him treat me like garbage, and I was supposed to just keep smiling?" Tears filled her eyes. "He's my best friend. I didn't want to lose that." I took a step back, shaking my head. "And what about me, Emma? What about the respect I deserve?" She didn't answer. That silence told me everything. I left her apartment without another word. For the first time in 2 years, I didn't look back. She tried calling that night. I didn't answer. She texted, saying I was overreacting, that she didn't want to lose me over something in the past. But to me, it wasn't just the past. It was the pattern, the lack of honesty, the misplaced loyalty, the way she expected me to bow down to her best friend just to keep her happy. I realized that my apology to Ryan wasn't just an act of peace. It was a moment I surrendered my self-respect. And I promised myself I would never do that again. A few weeks later, I heard from a mutual friend that Emma and Ryan had started spending even more time together. Late-night hangouts, weekend trips, constant social media posts. Maybe they were together, maybe not. I didn't care anymore. What hurt wasn't losing her. It was realizing she never truly valued what I gave. I had been loyal, patient, understanding, even willing to swallow my pride just to make her happy. But in the end, it was never enough. Looking back, I don't regret apologizing to Ryan, because that moment, as humiliating as it was, showed me who both of them really were. It showed me that real love doesn't demand you to sacrifice your dignity. It doesn't make you compete for respect. And most importantly, it doesn't make you apologize for standing up for yourself. Now, months later, I'm in a better place. I've moved on. The pain has faded into a lesson, one I'll never forget. When someone asks me about Emma, I just smile and say, she taught me the price of peace. Because sometimes keeping the peace means losing yourself, and I've learned that a price I'll never pay again.